Hey, how's it going, guys? It's your boy Trap House, and today we're doing Farming Simulator 25. Now, I don't have a lot of experience with this game, but I do watch people play it. So I decided to make a challenge on my own. We're going to do the start from scratch, and we're going to start with as little money as possible. But we are going to put it on easy because, like I said, I haven't played this very much. I only tested it out a little bit to get the hang of it before I started a playthrough. And we're gonna do this homestead mod, and these are the other mods that I use. Some big ones are the wood chipper, the auto pump, and the liftable pallets. Here's how I decided to look. I think I came out pretty snazzy. And yeah, we got started. What's cool is, I guess on this map you start with a little truck. So we hopped in that truck and we started to form a game plan. The first thing we were going to need was some land. So I went and visited a few spots, but it was too much forest and not enough fertile land to plant. So I went to another spot and I decided this was the one. It was a little hilly, but it had some trees I could chop down, and it wasn't too far from the starting area. So I could go back and forth to the sell point. And with that, we bought our first plot of land. Now, this map is a little bit of a no man's land, so you got to carve your way out. But I kind of like that. That's why I chose this map and this spot in particular. Yeah, so now that we ran out of money, we wouldn't talk to our boy David, who said we could use some of his old gear as long as we got it off his land. But it was junk, so we sold most of it, but we did keep the tractor. And after we got our money for the old parts, we took the tractor back home and we started to form our game plan. We know the fastest way to get a return on our money would be greenhouses. So we're thinking we'll set up a few greenhouses to get some money flowing every month. And then we're going to buy a wood chipper and try to sell the wood chips while we deforest the place so we can spread our fields. And with that, we went and did some shopping. I checked to see if there was anything useful that I could use in the discount part, but there wasn't. So we just went straight to setting up our greenhouses. Right now, I think we could afford 2, so we laid down 2 and then set up a water pump. And then we switched it to lettuce because that's the most profitable. And that'll get us our return really fast. And with that, we set up our greenhouse. We set it to lettuce. And then we went and bought a chainsaw and took our used car and went straight to the forest so we could start chopping down wood. Now, this was going to be a very slow and grueling process, but it was the best we could do for money right now. So we pulled up to the forest, pulled out our chainsaw, and we got straight to work. And we noticed pretty early on that cutting down these tall white ones netted us the most. So we tried to stick with those ones. Yeah, this was a lot of work. We had to strip them, then load them into the truck. But luckily the sell point wasn't too far. So once we got everything loaded, we just had to drive right down the way. We got them all latched in. And this was our first load. Let's see how much money we get from this. $815, which wasn't bad because that wasn't even the whole tree. So after that, we loaded the rest. And then basically we would spend most of our time from now on just logging non-stop, chopping down trees and lugging them back. After a few real world hours, we finally had enough money to buy a new greenhouse, which would double our monthly income. So we set that down and then put a tent down so we could get some sleep, which we did. Now we were looking pretty good. The next day we were tired of chopping wood, so we did a few logs and then we called it a night kind of early. We wanted to hurry up and get to the good stuff, and I just couldn't cut any more logs. And same with day 4. I just went straight to sleep. And finally, we were at day 5, where we had accumulated enough money where we could actually get some stuff done. So I spent my money on this new wood chipper, which is a mod that helps deforest the forest really fast. I made sure not to do unrealistic so it wasn't, too cheap. But yeah, this helped to clear the forest and the fields really fast. And this would help us get some serious money at the same time. So we began deforesting all the trees in our area. And once we had the wood chipper filled, we went and used this sell everywhere mod. Started off with this really small bucket, and we kept chipping and selling until we could finally afford something a little better. This does help clear things pretty fast, but as you can see, it's not like anything too crazy. You still had to put a lot of work in, and this map is basically all forest. We were able to get this bigger bucket, and it just helped get rid of the wood chips so much faster. And we were pulling in some pretty good money, as you could see. So we spent basically hours upon hours doing this nonstop for multiple days until we saved up a decent amount of money. Before I get ahead of myself, we went to sleep in November pretty late and woke up the next day in December and bought a plot of land. The reason we did this is because eventually we were going to terraform it and expand our warehouse empire. The wood chips were good, but we wanted to create some passive income. All this hard work and all this money we had accumulated, we figured it was time for a little bit of a treat. So we got rid of our old tractor and we went and did some shopping. Now we came across a pretty good deal, but we needed something stronger. So we went with this tractor right here and we customized it, put it all black, and we were ready to get some work done. This was going to make the wood chipping a lot faster, especially because we could attach it to the front trailer. Now with that, we headed into the new year, and we had accumulated a lot of money from wood chipping. So we figured it was time to make our next move. So we bought a mulcher, and then we went and picked it up from the yard, and we started mulching all the areas we had cleared. So later we could flatten out the land and start our mega farm. Didn't take too long, so we jumped right into that. That done, all we had to do was set our greenhouses to lettuce and then to sale. And then we got rid of our old ones because we were going to use the area for something else later down the line. And this is how it all came out. It looked pretty good and it was starting to look like a mega farm. And this was going to bring in some serious cash month to month without me having to put in any work at all. So, GG. We knocked the rest of the night out with some wood chipping. And then after that, we called it a night and got ready for the next day. But first, we had to put in our factories. So we set a couple of those up. We went into day 7 pretty hot. It was February, top of the season, but all we were worried about was wood chipping and then taking that money to set up the buildings we had planned. We wanted some factory for kimchi and maybe even carrots down the line. And then we set up these greenhouses that would allow us to grow carrots and potatoes in any season. But we found out later we were going to need manure. Then we set up some warehouses for kimchi and even some mushrooms. After that, it was back to wood chipping to get our funds back up. Once we set everything up, it came out pretty nice. Now, these ones we were going to put to vegetables and cabbage so that way we could run them through the factory and make kimchi. We got our mushrooms set up. Everything was pretty much done. We would do our beet crop warehouses later, but this is how it came out looking, and it was looking like a real mega farm, I must say. With all our factories, we should be making around 200K a month for starters. Yeah, so we ended up calling it a night and headed up into the next day. And this is how it looked in the daytime. I thought it was pretty cool. I needed a trailer to get things going, so I went and bought a truck and trailer, and I started to load in all the vegetables and feed them into my factory. That way our kimchi production could boost our monthly income. Next, I tried to load up our root crop greenhouses, but I got everything onto the trailer and got it down here and realized that this was manure and not fertilizer, so we were gonna have to do that later. So it was back to wood chipping to get our money up. And once we had a good amount of money, we went and bought these cow pens so later we could buy cows and start the manure process, because we were really locked in on the ground crops. We wanted to get that done. Next, we came to this field over here and flattened it out. And that was to prepare for a pretty decent field we could put over here. The next couple days was going to be the same process of me basically wood chipping to get my money up and then flattening out the land and then wood chipping and flattening out. And we did that well into April. And this is how it ended up coming out. And we were able to stack up a decent amount of cash while wood chipping. After that, we got our fields in. And I'd say they came out looking really good. This was going to get us a lot of money. We needed some rice fields so we could make noodles with eggs. And then we needed some wheat fields to feed the chickens to get us eggs. And we did them in multiple stages. That way, it would be easier down the line. Then we bought some gear and flooded our fields. And we got some workers started on planting one. And then we did the other. While our workers were busy with the field, we took the time to do our chores and run all of our vegetables and cabbage into the factories. And we set up 3 of them for kimchi, and we were going to save the other 2 for the root crop. We did some organizing back at the selling area in case we bought some new gear. And then we set up some fields up here in this upper area we had set up, which I think looks really cool and adds some depth to the farm. But this is where we were going to grow all of our wheat in the future and also get straw for our cows. So we bought the necessary gear and we lugged it over to the field and got our workers started. He was working, we brought over the rest of the gear we bought for the field. And since he had a while to go, we decided that we were going to start mulching the area to the far right of the farm. And that way, once it's all done, we could flatten this area out more and probably add another couple fields. So we got started on that. Now, this wasn't easy. This was a lot of land and it took a while, but we were able to get it done in one day. And had time to start flattening it out and it was looking kind of good, but it was getting late, so we headed into the next day. We started doing all of our chores, and once we got those done, we flattened the area out and added a new field. And this was going to give us a lot more rice production. And off camera, I added a flour mill to the corner, so later we would be able to start some pallets of rice flour, which we could mix with egg to make rice noodle. We spent the most of the day wood chipping, but I also went and bought some crawfish things so we could get crawfish into our field. And then I bought the food in a truck so I could load them up. And that would get us some crawfish production going. And I set them right here on the sides of the field. And after that, I did some more wood chipping and basically knocked that out for the rest of the day after I bought a forklift. Then we would use the night or the rest of the night to mulch this corner area, and that way we would be able to basically flatten this area and add one more pretty big field. And this view is looking crazy. But yeah, basically we're going to turn this area here into one or maybe even 2 different fields. And this is how the farm was starting to look. I think it was looking real nice. But we bought this plot back here so we could use the land to flatten out. But of course, this was going to cost a lot of money. So first we flooded our fields. Then we went to sleep. The next day we got cracking on our chores. We got all our vegetables and loaded them into our warehouse to keep the kimchi production going. And then we went and checked this little chart to see the correct prices on wood chips, and we noticed that they weren't going for a lot right now. So we set up a storage area that we could fill up so that way when the season hits, we could sell them at the highest price. Then we got back to wood chipping. We started filling up our warehouses because we wanted to make sure when the next year came, we got a lot of money. We really needed it. We had a couple projects left before we could say we're done with this episode. Now, after some wood chipping, we called it a night. We woke up the next day and we bought a cedar and took it over to the field because we had harvested the grass we had planted that I forgot to notify you guys about. But yeah, we were going to now turn it into hay. And so we mowed it, and while our AI worker was doing the mowing, we came behind him and dried it out. We also bought a few harvesters that we needed to get going for our rice fields. Now that the hay was ready, we bought a a wind steer thing, and we used this to put it into good little rows. And that way we could line it up all nicely and come in with another piece of machinery we got to basically scoop it all up. We needed this here for our cows. This was how we were going to feed them. Now, they are hypothetical at this point, but eventually we were going to grab them once we had all the feed. We got busy on our chores, just loading up our factories like usual, while we let the AI worker line all the rows up. And then once those were ready, we came in with our forage wagon right behind him, and we started scooping up the hay so we could store it for later when we actually have cows. We spent 60,000 on this place here where we could store hay and straw, which we would need both to get manure. So we loaded up as much as we could from the field, so we could hurry up and get it prepped for cultivating, which is what this guy's doing. And after the field was cultivated, we were going to come in and plant our wheat. And that's what I did. Got my harvesters going on the rice because we wanted to hurry up and start getting the rice stored up so we could have some noodle production. And I came behind them with this wagon every time they needed me to, and I filled it up. And we put that rice directly into the meals we had bought. Well, there's only one, but yeah, we put it directly in there. Next, we rode these fields up on the top half of the farm, and then we cultivated the rice fields so we could get them ready for next year. Might as well get it done now, you know? We got our crawfish truck loaded up and we set them to selling. Then we called it a night. And we were heading into the next day and directly skipping because we really didn't have anything to do. We loaded up a couple factories and then we called it a night again. Now, we were going to skip a couple days till we got to the next year because there wasn't much to do and we needed to stack up some money. But finally, we came to January. Now, the wood chips were selling for their highest, so we had gathered all the wood chips we had been storing up, and we were selling them for like 150K a pallet. It's crazy. Sorry, I meant per truckload. But yeah, we were definitely adding them digits up. This was great because this was going to let us turn all of that into basically another million. So once we got that all sold, we weren't going to stop there. We started wood chipping because we needed a lot of cash. We had to do some terraforming. With these two huge new fields, this was looking like a proper farm. We could produce enough wheat for animals and rice and eggs to keep our production going. Next day we woke up, checked the calendar, and seen we had some harvest coming up or some planting to do. We changed where we put our eggs. We wanted them closer to the rice fields back here. And we also took time to add a factory. And then we went and stocked up all the rice flour we had already had from the last year. And we brought that up there to the factory and got it loaded up. This was going to get us another production going and get our money adding up faster. we'd get up to about 300K a month. We then bought chickens. These were our first animals on the farm, so we were pretty excited. We got a full amount, and then we took our wheat. No, we bought some wheat, and we added it for now until we got our own wheat that we are growing in the field currently. And of course, after that, we grabbed our old faithful wood chipper and our big bin, and we got to work. We needed to accumulate some money before the wood chip season was over, and we had a couple little fields to clear just in case we wanted to expand later. We knocked the night out and we were able to get our funds up, and wood chipping was still king, but we called it a night. The next day, we went and checked on our chickens and loaded whatever eggs we had into the factory, and then we set it to noodle making production. And with that, we were finally making noodles. Let's go. We called it a night early after we did some wood chipping because we were eager to get planting. So we went and flooded our fields, and then we got planting our rice. And now with all these extra fields, we'd be able to make sure that we made rice noodles indefinitely. We bought a couple more rice planters just so we'd have enough to take care of all the fields. We took some time and got busy with our chores. We loaded up our eggs and our vegetables, and we could say that the farm was looking pretty self sufficient at this point, at least this part of the farm. This would let us move into bigger expansions later. So we put our tools away under cover, and then we started plotting on the next move. We were thinking of buying this land here and then using it for our wood chipper. And then once we got it all knocked down, we would turn it into a huge field, big as our whole farm. So we bought the land. Now, this was going to take a long time, and it probably wouldn't get done this episode, but this is something that we got to look forward in the next one. So for now, we got wood chipping. You know the drill. We went to sleep, woke up the next day, and flooded our fields, and then went directly back to sleep. And that was because we were preparing for a pretty big day. So the next day we bought a harvester, and we bought the best one we could because we had a decent amount of money from wood chipping. And we took it and got started on our field. Now this was exciting because we could now have straw. And why is straw a big deal? Well, we could take it and give it to our cows, and they could produce manure. So we could finally finish the final part of this part of the farm, which was root crops, greenhouse. So we took our little forage wagon and we collected all the straw, and then we went and loaded it into our cow farm. Now, we didn't have cows yet, but it was looking like it was time to buy some. So once we got that done, we loaded the rest of the straw we could, and then we went and grabbed the wheat. Now, the wheat was going to be useful to feed our chickens all year. That's why we had this huge field. So we took the wheat, gave it directly to our chicken silos, and then put the rest in a silo we built to the side. And once we got all the wheat done, we also took the time to fill the eggs. But yeah, once we got all the wheat done, it was time to load up the rest of the straw and then buy cows. Now, we had been waiting basically 2 years to get to this point. This was day 23, if you guys were wondering. And then we bought the cows. This was an exciting moment. We could finally get some cows and some manure. We bought them young so we could raise them up and also get some profit from them themselves. And we were feeling really accomplished. We got everything done we wanted to. We loaded the rest of the grain into the silo, and then we headed into day 24. This was 2 years on the farm. We got cracking with our harvesters, and we wanted to get all of our rice. Now we were feeling great. Everything was going great. We bought a couple more harvesters because we were going to have to take care of more fields, obviously. So we got them going. They were done harvesting. We put the rice into the mill and then cultivated. And that's probably going to be it for this episode. We got a lot done. We have kimchi, noodles, eggs. We have huge fields and cabbage. And we can even do our carrots now. We didn't set them up yet, but tune in for the next episode. All right, Trap House out.